Thank you, Karen. Thank you all. Nice to see you all again, people. I've been absent for some time because I was telling Wendy in an email that after the pandemic, the activities in the spiritist field kind of went up, right? With lots of things to do on Sunday mostly. So it's been difficult to come here, but we miss our conversation and our contact. Oh, of course we do, right? And we all have here, all about everybody here in our hearts. By the way, speaking about Chico Xavier, it's really, it's an endless talk, right? Because the guy stayed here in Brazil, making this all troublesome situation for almost 100 years, right? It brought us the nation to a commotion. And it's very difficult to pass it on to anyone who was outside because, firstly, it was the thing that was happening in the spiritist field that was contaminating, in a good sense, all the nation. And this is very difficult to transfer to anybody else because media doesn't bring it so strongly, not as strongly as things were happening in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right, and even 90s. So we can try. But first and foremost, let's remember that Chico Xavier, he first started being a national phenomenon from the early age of actually 17 years old. And then, by almost the same time, the Brazilian Spiritist Federation published a book, which was a national commotion. The book was a first edition. In its first edition, it contained 60 poems signed by 9 Brazilian poets, 4 Portuguese poets, an anonymous one. Starting from the second edition, published in 1935, new poems were gradually incorporated into the work, up to the 6th edition, published in 1955, when the number of poems was fixed at the 200 poems, and 59 attributed to 56 Portuguese Brazilian authors, both renowned. And anonymous too, right? So I will put some comments made by journalists and writers, people from the Brazilian Academy of Languages or Letters in Brazil, like this one, for example. This is Raimundo Nonato, a writer saying, all right, anyone who decides Chico Xavier as anyone who decides Chico Xavier as a medium, who denies Chico Xavier as a medium, will be giving raise to him as a forger. Because, actually, yes, this was something that was happening. If people, the guy was so honest, so charitable, and so rational, and at the same time, if you call him a forger, it was something that was not, and this is only the first book. Chico Xavier had never yet shown all his skills in mediumship, like physical mediumship, for example, like healing, like telepathy, like grasping even a mosquito's mind, the way he, of course, I'm kidding here, but he really grasped people's minds very easily. So he was, some people believe, ufologists, they believe that he was an ET. He was not a real human from this planet. And he said, some people came to me, Sergio, you've been with Chico, but I do believe Chico was not from this planet. Have you seen or did you see any sign in his skin, right? Maybe he was a Pleiadian, maybe he was a reptilian, whatever. So no, I think he was very human, right? He looked very, because really the phenomenon was so at a high level. And what's more, a high level of ethics, that it was impressive, right, for sure, right? Another comment was from another, a researcher that he got a prize recently because of this research is Alexandre Caroli. Livia and I once interviewed him. He lives here near my house. He said, there's an extraordinary mastery on the part of those who conceived the writings, right? Of the poetic particularities of the writers to whom they are attributed. So it was an academic writing, right? And lots of testimonials from many writers from that time until now, researchers, right, academic researchers, even those who try to debunk his work, they say, oh, come on, I don't want to believe that, but it's impossible to say that the phenomenon exists, right? I don't believe in spirits, for example. The guy says, I don't believe in the spirits, but the phenomenon exists. This guy is a phenomenon. But this is only the literary part, right? And then it comes there's a combo of phenomena and particularities in Chico Xavier's life that was amazing. But then this was his work, right? With at first, just to open the door, a foot on the door for him to be well known in the country. But then there comes the revelation books or revelational books in the sequence, right, of extreme books. Chico starts receiving information from a very knowledgeable person, his spirit guide called Emmanuel, who had the capacity of recollecting memories from reincarnations as far back as in the past as 2,000 years before. This is one of the titles of his books. And although they are novels, later on it became clear that in those books we had important information of what happened to the so-called primitive Christians and their thoughts, and how the message of Jesus' doctrine was deviated from its original pure significance, and the details, right, about that now many people, in my opinion, and because I know these people, even from the Catholic fields and other fields of Christian denominations, study his works to find the truth about the ways that Christianity started and then deviated to see and to do all the human mistakes they've done later on. There's also what at first was very polemical, the works of André Luiz. They were not accepted, out of nothing. It took decades for people to, in practice, mediumistic practice, and understanding the conflictuous ideas that maybe went against some ideas about reincarnation or something. So we had to be on a learning curve to get to the conclusions and to see the ideas that were in the books of André Luiz. For example, Chico spoke so easily, so openly about reincarnation that I was sometimes a little bit skeptical. And one of Chico's first very close friends, really close friends, his name was Arnaldo Rocha. Right? I think once I told you here. Chico said that one of my masters in English, in Spiritism, she said, oh, this guy had been a very famous guy. Who was this guy? Was Philip II of Spain. So come on. It's easy, but it's easy to say that, but it's, easier said than done, right? To accept that reality out of nothing. And one day, some years ago, before he passed away, this guy said, Sergio, I knew you were a little bit skeptical about that, but come here, come to my apartment, because there's a brand new biography about Philip II. And in that book, there's a dialogue between Teresa of Avila speaking to Philip the Prudent, which was the kind of nickname of Philip II of Spain. And she describes his personality. Is exactly the personality of my master of Spiritism, even with some defects and some, so it was so amazing. So, Chico Xavier really, he tops because, and Chico Xavier said this guy was Philip II, and he was also one of the characters of the book 2,000 years ago called Flaminius Severus, and the personality is the same, right? The guy was very prudent, very rational, And this is something that these things happening all the time, you know, because it was not one thing, right? It was not one thing here, another thing there. This was for decades, every week, every day, every month. So it's something overwhelming. It was something that I think Brazilian nation was very responsible for, in my opinion, not giving so much attention to his books, because Chico Xavier just said, people, okay, forget about the phenomena, but if I could pay for people to read my books, I would. He used to say, because the truth is there. The things are there, right? Things that surprise me, he said. Sometimes I read my books, I get so surprised. My goodness, right? Is this really the way the things are, right? So, and then after that, André Luiz's work, right, that rescued us and came this, André, it came the consoling letters. But there was something after these books, and after he appeared on TV, on a pool of TV in 1971, and there was a boom of Spiritism in Brazil because of that, because his show of answering all kinds of questions to all kinds of journalists and skeptic people, right, showing his capacity of answering all those difficult questions from technical, political, social, religious, and other things, questions, all kinds of questions. People really came into the Spiritist centers, right, in crowds, which was a problem because the Spiritist centers were not prepared for that. Imagine the spiritualist churches in the United States or in England, if suddenly there is no crowd of thousands of people going to the Spiritist church or spiritualist churches, if people there are not very ethically, philosophically, and practically prepared for that. So this was something that was a troublesome too, right? And then came the situation of this consoling letter, because Chico said, I cannot write books anymore. I don't have time to psychograph my books very much because I open the door, my front door, every morning there are hundreds of people there. So, and I need to assist to attend to everyone and things like that. So this was the first thing. This is just for you to have an open door, an introduction of what this personality was here in my country. And he was respected even by opponents of Spiritism. Like, I remember once a pastor, a very famous Protestant pastor in Brazil, on TV saying, Chico, I won't discuss the situation of your mediumship, but this is undeniable, right? It's not something that we cannot discuss is your mediumistic skills. So he begins the conversation saying things like that. And I will just have 5 minutes, I think, to best to show you a video of 5 minutes. It's on my channel, Spirit Connection. This video shows people speaking about the materialization, and in the house of Peixotinho. Peixoto was one of the biggest, most famous materialization mediums in Brazil, and he was a very, very friend with Chico Xavier. And in his meetings, he started appearing things that only in the Astral City book you can see, magnetic electronic devices or something like this. And even the minister Clarencio. Minister Clarencio showed up, right, materialized in his meeting. Minister Clarencio is one of the characters of Nosso Lar, or Astral City in English. So this was an amazing meeting. Chico Xavier was present, I think. And I want you to take a look. Of course, you have to read the subtitles because they're speaking Portuguese. Please be patient a little bit. By the way, before that, I'd like to show a picture that I found in a very old book. This is Chico Xavier in England. This is the couple that used to receive messages from Silver Birch, right? This is Valdo Vieira, a doctor who was also a medium. And this is a person, I don't know who exactly is. So this is Chico visiting because Chico was insisting in paying a visit to the couple who received Silver Birch in England, right? There we go. Now back to the video. Let me see if I can find the video here, just a minute. Okay, here.
A coisa de maior repercussão foi a materialização de Clarencio. Um dia, Clarencio se materializa numa reunião que foi uma surpresa, ninguém soube, com antecedência. Ele chega com seu cajado, entra na porta entre a cabine e a sala de sessão, faz uma palestra. Houve uma agitação antes, senhor ministro, eles gritam, senhor ministro, vozes de dentro da cabine e que vem alguém importante. O Clarencio faz a palestra dele, por quê? Ele não veio, ele não desceu para essa reunião, não era assim. É explicado depois que ele veio para materializar-se num grupo espírita em alguma parte do planeta. Mas o ambiente manda-se um destacamento espiritual precursor para saber se o ambiente comportava a presença de Clarencio. E esses que compareceram disseram que o ambiente não estava em condições de receber Clarencio. Como ele já tinha descido, procuraram um ambiente propício e encontrou em Campos, no Araci. Os espíritos disseram, não pensem que vocês vão vê-lo quando desencarná-lo. Vocês estão vendo agora e não o verão depois de desencarnado.
Isso aí é magnífico porque há pessoas que ainda vivem e que testemunharam esse fenômeno. O grupo foi surpreendido, como já aqui se disse, pela presença de Clarencio. Mas ele não se materializou de forma, vamos dizer, parcial. Ele se materializou totalmente. As pessoas, inclusive, se referem, eu tenho 2 relatos feitos por senhoras que conhecem bem, vamos dizer, as palavras que indicam os diversos adornos de uma e elas dão conta de punhos rendados, de golas, de um manto, realmente, de rara beleza, que foi visto, imagino o impacto emocional dessas pessoas.
O espírito que apareceu, que mais emoção me causou, foi a presença de Clarencio, ministro do nosso lar. Quando ele apareceu, o salão que ficava às escuras ficou completamente claro, onde víamos todas as pessoas com os mínimos detalhes, porque ficou uma claridade imensa, em pleno salão. E ele apareceu com uma túnica toda em luz, aquela túnica que ia até os joelhos, toda em luz, e com um cajado, também todo iluminado. Ele chegou na porta da cabine, avançou 3 passos para o salão, e ali ele falou para todos nós. Foi uma coisa maravilhosa que até os espíritos, quando ele apareceu na cabine, antes de sair para o salão, ministro, os espíritos que estavam ali diziam assim, ministro. Sheila, então, ministro, a sua presença aqui. Então foi uma coisa maravilhosa para todos nós. E Peixotinho foi aquele amigo que não temos nem palavras para explicar.
So guys, this is the routine people lived at that time, right? And remember that Chico Xavier's exercised physical mediumship for more than a year, up to the moment that his spirit guide materialized, Emmanuel, and very strongly said, Chico, your mission is the book. That's all for now, as for materialization, right? So, as I'm telling you, people, we could be going on and on for hours in here. And in terms of his the revelations in his book, I remember I had my master saying to him that this book will be studied in universities in the future for hundreds of years, right? Because they keep very interesting revelations. And the point of reincarnation was so interesting because as Chico went revealing, unveiling this kind of information about reincarnation, we can clarify some doubts about how reincarnation really works. And we can go for them because there are doubts, in the spiritualist field and in the spiritist field, how really reincarnation worked. And his work was very important to give us, to nurture us in that direction. Okay, and now I pass it on to the next, Karin.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes. Thank you, Louis. Alberto, what would you like to add to the conversation?
Well, a lot of things that I was going to say, Luis already said them. But I have a little script I would like to read. Well, first I want to let you know that I have a bilingual YouTube channel about the afterlife, and many of the videos are about Chico Xavier. I think it's important that people know about Chico because in general, they have no idea that someone with his characteristics ever existed. Chico had many types of mediumship, such as clairvoyance, psychography, clairaudience, healing, psychophony, henoglossy, and even the materialization of spirits through ectoplasm. As for ESP, he showed signs of telepathy, bilocation, precognition, and more. But he never used all these skills to his advantage because he never charged for anything. On the contrary, he spent his money to help those in need. Due to his characteristics, Chico Xavier is a good man according to the gospel, according to Spiritism. He is a just man according to the Bible, and he is a saint according to the Spiritual Science Research Foundation. And unlike almost all public or famous figures, Chico never had problems of drugs or addictions, love affairs, scandals, robberies. He lived an exemplary life, always thinking about his neighbor. And examples like this are what the world needs. Chico left more than 450 books from various spirits whose proceeds were donated to charity, and nearly 20,000 psychographic letters for the families who had lost a loved one, for which he never charged and only slept 3 hours and a half per day for many years. According to the journalist Saulo Gomez, 1.5 million people received free care one by one. And with 4,000 social projects, almost all municipalities in Brazil have a social project like hospital, orphanage, drug rehabilitation centers, nursing homes, etc., who receives help from the sales of his books. For this reason, 2 million signatures were gathered to nominate him for the Nobel Prize of the Peace in 1980. Chico is the only medium in history nominated for the Nobel Prize. For that alone, it is worth knowing him. I am finished. Regarding the information he provided about the spiritual world, we can affirm that many other sources corroborate everything he says. That is, it is consistent with other sources, some ancient ones and some modern ones. For example, with Silver Beach, Anthony Borgia, Divaldo Pereira Franco, Mikey Morgan, Yvonne Damar Pereira, Jürgen Siwi, Irene Pacheco Machado, Dr. Ian Stevenson, Jules and Maggie Fishbash, etc. There is also information received by Chico, such as that given by the spirit and released about the pineal gland that was unknown at that time, but many years later it was proven true. And finally, the spirit Silver Bridge says, if you help a person to find the truth, you will have justified your existence on earth. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Can you put in the chat what your channel is, Alberto, please, so that people can have a look at that? And while you're doing that, I'll add that Chico, when he psychographed for people to give them some relief from their grief, he did it with his eyes closed and his hands over his eyes with his eyes closed, and he wrote out messages to people who were grieving from their loved ones. So he was able to receive messages from the loved ones and write it out. And, he was very prodigious with it. He was also taken to court several times, and his work was upheld in court, which is very, very important. And he also predicted that he would die on the greatest day of Brazil's history. And that was the day that Brazil won the World Cup, which is current at the moment. So thank you, Alberto, and thank you for putting in your YouTube. I would thoroughly recommend you look at some of Alberto's works. They're very short, very snappy, and they say the message very well. They very much impressed me, and this is why I wanted him to talk today. So now, Ana, would you like to speak? Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you all, and good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. But first of all, I'd like to render my congratulations to Alberto, because today is not so common that we see a young person, a young fellow, to seek this kind of knowledge, to seek this kind of information. So it is a joy for a person like me to see someone so young like him, seeking this kind of knowledge, and not only doing that, but trying to share what he's learning. So I really appreciate what he did, and I was impressed with the level of information that he mentioned today. He mentioned names and facts that is not so spread, is not so very well known or understood by people outside of Brazil. So yeah, it was really nice. So I will go ahead and share what I have over here. So I hope you guys can see. Am I sharing? Can you see?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about this group that we handle, the meetings that we handle every Saturday afternoon. Afternoon in US. But we call this group as SLIDS, and this was like a suggestion from the spiritual guide of one of the members. And SLIDS means spiritual literature directed studies, because that's what we do. We read books and then we discuss among us, and we try to find reason in what we are studying. But then we record all the videos, and then we post them in this YouTube channel named Science and Spirituality Connection. So who we are truth seekers. But as a truth seekers, we understand that there are more than one perspective of the same reality. And because of that, then we need to keep our mind open. We need to be able to accept someone else's truth. And because, given our limitations, we think that it's not possible for one in this 3D, in this physical dimension, to grasp the whole truth at once. So we understand that we all kind of hold a different perspective of the same reality. And that's our belief. So we believe in keeping this open mind style. And we believe in Spiritism, but this Spiritism based on this Christic mentality, meaning it's not just about the reason, but keeping also a high moral values, keeping high moral values such as compassion, acceptance, tolerance, forgiveness, and such. So, and as we go to different symposiums and conferences, we have seen so many people with a lot of data, holding a lot of data. And that was calling our attention because, data talks about the statistics. It's about the statistics, and any computer can do that job or even better than the human brain. But now when you give some context to that data, now you're talking about that data has some meaning. So, and but information, we can find information in magazines and books and newspapers, but when you start connecting that information together, now you're getting to knowledge. So that's what a reader do, grasp knowledge, because now you're trying to connect those dots with different meanings, but still seems like something is missing. Now, when you see a reason behind that information, then you become getting insights. So that's what a thinker do, getting insights. And even better, when you start connecting those insightful information, now you grasp wisdom, right? So you're becoming a wiser person. And that's what we try to do in our group. We try to use wisdom from people like Allan Kardec and the books, from the spirits, from the books like from Chico Xavier, for example. So we try to use those wisdoms, and we try to apply them in our day-by-day life, because that's what those knowledge, they are out there for us to apply them and use them in such a way for a good purpose, so in such a way that we kind of improve our own spirit, if you will, our own soul. But also we understand that it is our duty to serve others, to help others. And as we do that, we understand that we make sure that we have love and compassion is now becoming part of what we do and who we are. But evidently we do that always keeping our base in Kardec's teachings and his Spiritist teachings. And Kardec he talks about this rationalized faith. And he used that a lot, and that's what we follow, because we believe there is no such a thing like absolute truth, like our cartoon with the elephant. There is no way that somebody can grasp the whole idea, the whole truth. We also follow Allan Kardec's criteria. Allan Kardec, as he was putting this work together, he was constantly keeping those questions in mind. Is it true? Is it good? Is it useful? Is it relevant? So that's the kind of thing that as we study, we also cross-check, we double-check. the information that we are having access to. We also ask, those questions such as, is it reasonable? Is it logical? Does it make sense? It must be realistic, must have a purpose, and above all, must have a good purpose, right? So in this book, The Consoler, I do not know if there is a translation into English about this book, but it's a book from Chico Xavier and his spiritual guide, Emmanuel, The Consoler, and in Portuguese is O Consolador. I'm pretty sure there is a translation into Spanish, I guess. But the Spirit, Emmanuel, he brings a very important warning to all of us. He said, every era is renowned by specific characteristic and or events, such as discovery of religion, arts, philosophy, industry, and so forth. Our era is renowned by intellectual evolution. In other words, rationalism. However, we ought to pay attention to the importance of moral values in our own emotions, our feelings, because at the end of the day, what is knowledge without love? What is knowledge without compassion? We as human beings, we evolved, we developed, we progressed, and we developed our intelligence. And what we did with our intelligence, we created mortal weaponry. That's what we did with our intelligence, because until, today, not all of us, we do not understand the importance of educating ourselves as well in higher moral values, right? So that's why we kind of put this foundation basis in our for our group. We set up this foundation basis for our group. That's why we the Christians' moral teachings are like the cornerstone for our group foundation basis. So because we believe in piety, empathy, charity, faith, love, we believe in responsible truth, we believe in responsible beliefs, because every belief is valid only if it's based on love and respect life, respect others, respect other beliefs. And let's face it, that not even Jesus told us everything he knew, right? He didn't tell us the whole truth, because he respected our limitations and waited for the right moment to tell us what we needed to know at that point. We also believe in mediums with high moral values. That's why Chico Xavier is one of the main references for us, mediums with high moral values. We also believe in study, but not only keep on reading books, reading magazines, going to conferences and symposiums, because we believe in practicing that knowledge, practicing that learning lesson. So learning is important, but even more important is to apply that in our day by day, in our daily life. So it is important to apply, because we believe that one of the main purpose of our lives here is to learn how to serve, how to be of help to one another. And as we do that, we make sure that the lessons that we learn are now built in our system. In the book of Among Brothers of Other Lands, this book also from Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira. Luis showed his a picture of him, this guy, Valdo Vieira. In this book, one of the spirit author, if you will, is of this book is called Humberto de Campos. Humberto de Campos was one of the Brazilian writers back in the days. And anyway, this book, Among Brothers of Other Lands, there is a list of several precursors of Spiritism or spiritualism in the United States. They are all from the 19th century. So there's a very long list of those guys, but I want to talk about one of them today here with you. One of them was Maria Hayden. Maria Hayden, and this is a picture of her. By the way, this is a very nice book, In the Search of Maria Hayden, the American medium who brought spiritualism to the UK. So Maria Hayden, or Mariah Hayden, was an American medium who performed several sessions, spiritual sessions, involving turning tables and such. And she published several books in the UK. She's one of the responsible ones for spiritualism dissemination in UK. But Humberto de Campos, the spirit of Humberto de Campos, he had a chance to interview her. So a spirit interviewing another spirit. And then they talk about that in the book. And then she told Humberto de Campos that she knew about Kardec's work. And she said that if she were to talk about Spiritism and spiritualism to the English-speaking brothers, in her own words, she would invite all friends and associates of ideal, all Anglo-Saxons and Latin people to come together for a general study about Spiritism and spirituality for the benefit of humanity. And she also said, very interesting here, that starting from the humblest group of opinion, I would discuss fundamental issues of the soul, immortality, evolution, reincarnation, destiny, pain, and justice. They, meaning us today, the incarnated people, they will need to move from the narrow environment of the symposiums for the clear and simple analysis of the people. So that's what we are trying to do. That's what we do, and that's what we believe, the efficiency of those small gatherings, of those small groups. We also agree with what Mariah Hayden said long ago. And in this book, the name of the book in Portuguese is Brasil, Coração do Mundo, Pátria do Evangelho. I'm not quite sure this book is translated into English, but the translation of the title in English is Brazil, Heart of the World, Gospel's Fatherland. And the book is from Chico Xavier and the spirit Humberto de Campos. And the explanation about this title is, okay, Gospel Fatherland is pretty much understandable, because in the book they say there is no other place that had produced such a huge how can I say, publications about spiritualism, about Spiritism. Just to mention Chico Xavier works, and Alberto mentioned that Chico himself, he published more than 400 books. And he was guys, Chico Xavier was just one of the mediums in Brazil. And Alberto mentioned some of other mediums, very interesting and at the same caliber as Chico's, like Ivone do Amaral Pereira. She also published several books, very important books. Those books, they are studied seriously in the Spiritist centers in Brazil. Divaldo Pereira Franco, another medium that is still alive. He is in his early 90s, but he's still very active. So we have a lot of books and we have a lot of knowledge in Spiritism based on Kardec's work, okay? So now, that's the explanation for Gospel Fatherland, but the explanation about Brazil, Heart of the World. At the beginning, once this book was published, everybody was thinking that the title meant so one day Brazil is going to be a powerful economy in the world. Well, if you think like this, you were just thinking like any other rationalist, because it's not meant to be that way. It's not the purpose of this land. It's not the purpose in God's plans, in the spiritual plans. So, and then Heart of the World, I want you to compare that to the human body, to the heart in the human body. What is the function of the heart in the human body? It is to pump blood to the body. It is to nourish the other organs with blood, right? And so what is the blood? Who is the blood for in Brazil? So the blood in this case, for comparing, making that comparison, the blood in this case, it is the knowledge, all those books being published, all those, magazines, etc., but also the people who believed in spiritualism. So it is not by a coincidence that today we have, and this is, what I have over here is a graph, statistics that was announced like a couple years ago by Itamaraty. This is the consular department. I do not know how to call those formal government department, but anyway, this is the real data. This is formal data, but old, but it gives us a pretty good idea. Today we have a lot of Brazilians spread all over the globe, and evidently not all of them, they are spiritists, but among the Brazilians spiritist population, we feel like it is our duty to spread the word in the work of Spiritism, spread this knowledge from Allan Kardec's work and keep it genuine, keeping like it was like exactly as it was done the first time.
At the top of the hour, Anna. So some people will need to start leaving at the top of the hour. Would you be able to just tell us briefly about the trip that you're doing down to Brazil and what you are hoping to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to provide you a very good knowledge about what Allan Kardec did, and that's what we do in our small group meetings on Saturdays. We have our agenda. We meet every Saturday, and we keep our recordings in our YouTube channel. Science and Spirituality Connection. We have book studies. We are studying now these books from André Luiz series. And we have small gatherings. We have the first one last year in Houston. It was a very nice one, small group, but lots of discussion, lots of learnings. And this time we have the second meeting in Pedro Leopoldo, where Chico Xavier was born. And among one of the things that we plan on doing, we're going to visit his house, Chico's house, and this is his bedroom, by the way. Today, this house is renovated because it has been renovated so we can receive people. But one of the things that we are going to do as well, this is our program. One of the things that we are going to do is we are going to have Sonia Rinaldi with us, and she will stay with us in this house. Yeah, so she will show us the latest discoveries, and there will be a lot of discussions about Chico's life and his mission. And we are going to visit this Spiritist Center as well on a Saturday, just to show, some of the members of our group, the dynamics and the structure of a Brazilian Spiritist Center. As we do not pretend to say, okay, this is how it should be done. This is just a small sample, just to give people a very good idea about how Spiritism is practiced in Brazil. And I would like to leave you with this sentence from Margaret Mead, and she was an American anthropologist, very active in the 1960s and 1970s. She said, "Never doubt that a small group of conscious and committed people can change the world. In fact, this is how the world has always changed." And that's it, folks.
Thank you very much, Anna. Wendy, over to you.
Well, thank you, all of you. It was an absolutely wonderful presentation. Louis and Livia, I'm just blown away by your personal revelations of the experiences. Alberto, lovely, as Anna said, it's lovely to see your commitment to the work and how you're growing in skills all the time. And we want to encourage you to be speaking more too, because you come across really, really well and so sincere. And Anna, we're just absolutely delighted with the progress of your work. And this trip looks fabulous. I only wish we could, we were a little bit closer. And so maybe someday, and a bit younger. That's the other thing too.